How did it work practically co-writing the song?
Coffee, flip chart, guitar, piano, laptop.
Yeah.
Hey, it was easier than I expected.
Well, it's always easier when you've already got a tune. I think we had an idea of the journey we wanted it to go on, sort of stating our case at the start. You know, we seek your kingdom throughout every sphere. And then that kind of where we land with the final verse, which is, faithful to govern, ever may we be. In all things, may your authority transform, revive, and heal. So we had that as a kind of an end point.
I think the surprise in it, if I recall properly, and maybe something I bought, was that little confessional moment where verses 3 and 4 suddenly forgive us, Lord. That moment of confession.
No, that's what I mean about the journey.
It was a journey, but I don't think we set out that way. I think we just suddenly realised that's where it needed to go.
No, it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. There were so many moments where you thought...
I like the concept of the song being reimagined, in terms of lyric to melody, which was the custom in those days. Poets would write poetry and you had the musicians who would put a melody to it so that people could sing it. And I like the fact that we actually took that same model and I've not created a terrible place, but we've created a place with new lyric.
Why does this song matter, Graham?
Oh, wow, goodness. Well, we've picked up a little bit on it already, I suppose, haven't we? But the songs that we sing in church form our beliefs, our theology. They shape us. They shape our beliefs about the kind of world that we live in. There's an old Latin phrase that Anglicans like to use: lex orandi, lex credendi. The rule of prayer is the rule of faith. And in a way, what you sing or pray is what shapes the content of your faith. So I've always thought that we need songs and hymns that are going to help us see that our faith is a 24/7 faith. It's not for Sunday mornings. Our faith, our following Christ, is an everyday life thing. It's on our front line, wherever that might be. It could be, maybe we're a builder, maybe we're a nurse, maybe we're a teacher. But we need to know that our faith is meaningful and active, and that our God is with us and wants us to reflect his love and his character, and to reflect and bear the image of Christ. When we're at the desk on Monday morning, where whatever our front line might be, that's where it gets played out. So I think it really matters.
I think that the importance of the song is that it gives voice to what Jesus is saying. Because, we can have an amazing time in church and we can sing the songs that individually impact us, but there's a whole story, like Revelation talks about the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus. This means that Jesus is speaking about community. He's speaking about the civic space. He's speaking about how our humanity responds. And my definition of worship is humanity's response to the revelation of who Jesus is. And it takes away all the styles of music. It comes straight to the heart of what is Jesus saying about those people on the fringes of society. What is he saying about those that are in the heart of decision making? What is he saying about our systems that we have created that glorify us in many ways, politically or socially, and the kingdom is at the heart of what Jesus is saying. I've come to bring the kingdom, the message of the kingdom, and I think this song is really, really needed now when all our systems have been shaken.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think there's a beautiful thing about, this is three blokes sitting talking about how we think the thing we did is the most important thing. And it's genuinely, I mean, it might sound like that, but it's genuinely, I don't think it's true, because why we're sitting here is because we've got the confidence of having seen it used in the last 5 years, and knowing how people have responded. And so not just us thinking, oh, this is healthy theology for the church, or this is a healthy thing for the church to be singing. We've had the leaders of church streams coming up to us and saying that. We've had various conferences. We've had, I think of the Movement Day, the Gather UK folks around the country. I think of the LICC folks at their gatherings, where you have people coming together who in Bradford, in Bristol, are forming these sphere groups of, all the Christians who are involved in education, all the Christians who are involved in finance, all the Christians who are involved in business.
Absolutely.
And this is becoming an anthem for this people. This is representing a movement that is happening. It's becoming an anthem for those folks. I've had accountants come up to me and said, thank you for writing songs that talk about spreadsheets. It's the first time I felt like my world was represented inside the church. So
why does this song matter? I guess also the biblical vision of worship is intimately connected with justice, right? And we only need to read Amos or Micah.
Yeah.
Let justice roll down like a river, righteousness, right relationships in society like a never-ending stream. Or what does the Lord require of you? That you love mercy, do justice, walk humbly with the Lord your God. Now, these are the scriptures, I suppose, that remind us that it's no good showing up to church and singing worship songs if you're not going to then get out into the rest of your life and work out what justice, what mercy, what humility looks like at your front line. But what difference do you hope that the song will make?
I hope that it will make a difference because a lot of people are praying for our nation. So just purely from an intercession point of view, and I know from the history of revivals and from the history of the church that when lots and lots of people are lifting his name up and saying you have the ultimate authority, that changes things. That shifts something in the spiritual realm. It changes the temperature. So I really hope that's going to happen. But I also hope it shifts. And so many young people talk to me about songwriting and ask me for advice about songwriting for churches and for worship. And I hope for those sort of folks, they are inspired to include the words of their world into the songs that they write for people to sing. That whether it's the world of TikTok or the world of chat rooms or the world of a skate park or wherever it is, that actually people will be including the words of their world into their psalms in the way that David did.
I think that's so beautiful. I had this amazing picture as you were speaking of a generation who are fearless and courageous to tell the story of their encounter in everyday life, that God is right in the center of their work, in the center of their thought process, but finding the right words that actually engage others where God is not the center, but actually these people sing this song, and I think I call it a song of the soil.
Right.
In that the earth is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God, and there's a sense where we connect to everything that we do, everything that we are, and all of it is in Christ.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we can speak from there.
I kind of hope that this song is going to launch and help people discover their vocation. And now I believe that every Christian has a fundamental vocation to be a child of God. In fact, I believe that of every human being, that their fundamental vocation is to be a child of God, to be adopted into God's family. But, when we talk about vocation in the church, usually people figure it's about people wanting to become vicars or worship leaders or youth workers or whatever it might be, wearing a dog collar. And I don't think that that's the fundamental category of vocation at all. I think the question is, what gifts and skills and passions has God given you that you can use to make a difference for His glory and His kingdom where you are in your workplace? I want accountants who do their work with integrity, with honor, who work with their colleagues with love and respect, and who can make sure they're transforming businesses to make sure that they're doing justice in wages and all of those sorts of things. So I hope that the language I hope, will help people think God could be calling me not to leave the world and serve in the church, but to go out from the church and to lead and serve in the world.
Yeah. And not just in workplaces, for those, who are retired to know, where their sphere of influence is in terms of their relationship.
And those who are full-time parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever,
exactly.
What's your favorite line and why, Graham?
I love the line, fill all who lead with your integrity, right? And I think probably for me, that looks to what was it like for Daniel, the character of Daniel in the Bible, who found himself in captivity, in exile, in Babylon. He's living, as it were, he's a citizen of God's people, God's kingdom, but he's living away from home. But he's got to represent. He's got to be an ambassador, to use St. Paul's language. He's got to be an ambassador of the kingdom of heaven, of God's people, where he is. And how does he do that? He does it by doing everything he does with integrity. And he's willing to take the stand where he needs to and say, no, I won't do that. I'm not going to bow down to these gods. And I believe that the Lord will honor me. And I think he's a great example for us. And probably if I can cheat and slightly have two, and I won't name the line, but I guess... Daniel also has this amazing thing in chapter 9 where he confesses on behalf of his forebears and the whole community. And Daniel's like one of the most extraordinary guys. You feel like you've got nothing to confess, but he identifies himself in solidarity with everybody, his forebears, his community, and wants to stand and make confession with them. So he's like, transformation, all of this is going to start when we are willing to be vulnerable, humble ourselves, be penitent, and then let God's power come, let God's strength come and be made manifest through our weakness.
That is so brilliant. What's your favourite line, Andy?
The second line, actually. We long for heaven's demonstration here. I think that word demonstration has become so key in my understanding of the kingdom in these last few years that importantly, we're not building the kingdom. That's not our job. Our job is demonstrating the kingdom.
Right.
And you think of an old chemistry experiment at school. It was a demonstration.
That's right.
So you got that magnesium or whatever it was, and you exposed it to the air, and it exploded into these flames. And so it was real. It was happening, but it was also just a demonstration. So just like Jesus' miracles, they were real. Transformation happened, but they were also a demonstration of what the future perfection was going to be. And I think that takes a lot of the kind of heaviness off our shoulders when we realize that our call here is to demonstrate the kingdom, to show signs of that beauty, of that perfection, of that justice in our workplaces, in politics, in media, in everywhere. We're demonstrating that future perfection. We don't have to build it and gradually. We're not building it to gradually get to this future utopia. We're demonstrating that demonstrating what heaven is like in the now.
Hey, F.D. Morris in the 19th century said the kingdom of heaven is a present reality which is set to transform the face of the whole earth. I love that line. And it's a present reality that is transforming the
One of the things that's really powerful about what you said, my favorite line is definitely, forgive us, Lord, when we have not engaged. And this is the line, failing to scribe your heart on history's page. Every time I sing that line, I get, and this may really be strong, but I'm a first generation immigrant of the Windrush community. And the way of my family has come through the Caribbean, through slavery and some of those things and here's this line that says, forgive us, Lord, for we fail to scribe what's on your heart in bringing the kingdom in how humanity has treated humanity.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing, it speaks to modern day slavery. It speaks to the way we do transatlantic business with the third world, if that's the same. It speaks to all of that stuff. Can we find God in that? As you talked about mission and you talked about how that, and every time I sing that song, it's a real, Lord, help me not to repeat the things that our humanity took over. It wasn't that way in the first place.
Yeah.
Help us to redress that. So every time I sing that, it really does just impact my heart.
Oh, man. That's so good. Because forgive us, Lord, when we have not engaged. And usually that's big because we've had a false, secular, sacred mindset that actually, we're the church. We'll get on with all the spiritual Sunday morning prayers, invisible things, and we'll leave all the practical, the broadband, the dustbins, the internet. We will leave that we'll sort of outsource that to other people, and that's the dirty work. of politics and governing the world. And that's just a really false secular sacred mindset. Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar and render unto God what is God's. But he didn't mean there was a big dividing line.
No.
He meant render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, little circle, render unto God what is God's. Like, it's a small little delegated bit of authority.